Hi, everyone. This is one of those days we're having a ton of problems with the internet. So I want to let you know what was going on. Let's try this and see what happens. This is just to watch the signal. Sorry to do this to you. Here we go. Okay, well, that was a little, what do they say, bass backwards. But I wanted to make sure I could get the signal pulled in a little better. As you all know, there are some problems out here with that. So it didn't start out very well. And I guess I could have adjusted it during the introduction, but I think this way it helped me to figure out what was going on a little better. Good morning, everyone. Today is the 16th of October, 2018. I cannot believe it's halfway through October now. It's been a crazy year on a lot of fronts. I don't know about you, but it certainly has been to me. I titled this Social Media Purge is Too Little, Too Late. And I can hear kicks and screams out there, people saying, no, it's a massive assault. They're really coming after us. And I totally agree, they are. But the lines of division were settled some time ago. And when they went after Alex Jones this last summer, the end of the summer, I guess it was, for the people that had already seen what the left was doing and what the social media was doing to support the rogue part of the CIA and the deep state and the New World Order and all that. These lines have already been pretty much drawn up, and I wanted to discuss that for just a couple of minutes today. I am upset about the censorship and the purge. Some of my favorite ones are gone now, including Anti-Media, Carrie Wedler. If you've ever followed her, she gives very good, succinct, and they're rather rapid reports and commentary. And she's been removed from Twitter along with Antimedia and Facebook. Now, I didn't have Facebook, but I do use YouTube, and I think they got their YouTube account too. But this is disturbing that this is not just Orwellian, this is Soviet. This is actually Soviet and also Chinese, and I think most of us understand that this is, in fact, now a war, because China is the one that's been pushing for these things for a long time from Facebook and the social media. And to get that, well, they'll use the excuse that to get the Chinese market, they have to have these rules in effect. Well, if the Chinese want our product, they have to bend to us, not the other way around. So, at least in my estimation, especially when it involves something as basic in our society as free speech. But at any rate, the Chinese are at war with us. I think that's pretty much understood by most people at this point. We know, for instance, that the $800 billion trade deal that Trump tried to give China with some stipulations, one being that they not put chips in our their chips in our computers that they sell to us anymore so they can surveil us. All of that kind of fell apart because the Chinese basically wouldn't keep their end of the bargain. No surprise there. Now, Americans aren't real good at keeping their end of the bargain either. But in this situation, of course, when we're talking about censorship and media purges, social media purges, the clamp down on free speech, which is happening all across, of course, the world, primarily Western Europe with the EU, Britain, places like that, China, and the United States. That's where we're seeing a lot of this, of course, and it is war. That's exactly what it is, and I've called it that for a long time. But getting back on this business here, let me read just a little bit about, this is off of Zero Hedge, and it's just the last little bit I wanted to put on here because I think it's apropos for what we're seeing. These writers are, I better get their names. So it's on Zero Hedge, but it's authored by Caitlin Johnstone via Medium.com. If you want to go to Zero Hedge, you can see the article. It's called "Internet Censorship Just Took an Unprecedented Leap Forward and Hardly Anyone Noticed." And that's right. Like I said, I'm just going to mention Antimedia and Carrie Wedler because those are two that I've been watching for some time. There's also Police the Police and some other ones that have gone by the wayside, and more will go. And this is a tragedy because there are websites, there are social media news sites that are irresponsible. They're out there for clicks. I see people trying to. I'm just a commentator, and I admit that. I don't claim to be a journalist. So the information I talk about is usually getting information from other places and then expounding on it or explaining it. And I'm pretty upfront about that. But a lot of people take it and run as if it's their information that they themselves have gotten, or they twist it. Now, some of that is just for clicks. Some of it's probably deliberate on the part of the intelligence community to muddy the waters. And I'm very suspicious of that when I see it. But this is the part that I wanted to read on Zero Hedge, and I'm going to quote them. So I am quoting Zero Hedge and these writers on this. This is quoting a person. Well, I guess I'll just go ahead and read it. I think it's somebody by the name of Watts that they're actually quoting here. But let me read what it says. "The private sector, therefore, must do the dirty work of the government." We hear all these claims that, these are private corporations, so they can do what they want on their platforms and all of that, which is really not true because of the money they get, how they got their startup, and I've explained all that before. There's government subsidies. Look at just the post office thing of Amazon. Now, I know Amazon's not really a social media platform, but it's that kind of information that should make them regulate, especially in the matters of free speech and all of this coming up to the election. But let me finish reading. I always do that. I always diverge. "The private sector, since the government doesn't want to look like it's trying to censor free speech." Of course, in China, they don't care. They just do it. In the United States, it's all a cover, and they're using the corporations to do it. And people are going to hate this because of all the scripture stuff I did the last few days. But doesn't the scripture say that it's going to be the merchants that are pushing these things? They don't call it corporations in the scriptures, of course. They call it merchants. And the merchants will lament if they don't get to do all these things they want to do to control people and the buying, the selling, and all that. So with that, I go back again. "The private sector, therefore, must do the dirty work of the government, because government propaganda is viewed with suspicion by the population." So they just hide it, right? "Business and the private sector may not naturally understand the role they play in combating disinformation, but theirs is one of the most important. In the West, at least, they have been thrust into a central role due to the general public's increased trust in them as institutions." Do you see what's happening? The CIA, the deep state, the New World Order, all of that, they're using, and of course we all know that, the censorship. They gathered us all into these ghettos, and then they're cutting us off. Now, my contention is this. I think even though this has been ongoing for some time, I think it's too little too late. In my estimation, as I look at it, and we'll talk about it here in the chat in a few minutes, what I see is that really they're not going to change anybody's minds at this point. Even if people aren't getting the information from us, from the social media news sites, even if we've been purged like Kerry Wedler has and anti-media and people like that, the stage has already been set and most people have made up their minds where they are. So what happened was the Donald Trump election threw the left a curveball. They weren't ready for that, and their battle plan wasn't what they ended up having to do. Their battle plan was to run with Hillary and do all these things without any difficulty at all. And unfortunately for them, they've run into just the opposite. So the Donald Trump election did mess up their battle plans, absolutely. Not that they didn't have contingency plans, because obviously they have. But I guess what I'm saying is that I don't see these purges. I mean, it hurts the people that depend on this, who first of all like to do it, like Kerry Wedler, make their living off of it and do a good job. And then, like I say, there are those who are buffoons, but the ones that really got hit bad are not. Like 2 million followers, 2.7, 3 million followers, something like that. So, but what I'm saying here is I think what we've got is, like I said, these lines of division have already occurred. You might get a trickle back and forth because people who are susceptible to the mainstream media and their lies and deceptions. A few will trickle back, but most of the people, I think, have made up their mind. And a lot of people at this point are watching Trump. And that's really where it should be. Not even us, right? They should be watching Trump. And Trump's done a good job at these rallies. It's kind of the very top level of the information. I'm a little disappointed that some of the deeper stuff hasn't got out, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. But by and large, these battle lines have been drawn. So what do I think is going on here? The leftists are being pushed forward to do horrendous things. That's what I think is happening. If they can get rid of because leftists are going to look at our sites, they're going to do that. That's what they do. They're not like conservatives. I hate to tell you. Okay, they don't close their minds to what the opposition does. Remember, I've often said the children of darkness are wiser than the children of light because they prepare to do their evil. So they look at what we're doing and they respond to it. But with us being shut down by and large, except of course Trump is still out there and he's really, really pushing these things. I heard a pretty good speech by Rand Paul the other night, by the way, in the rally in Kentucky. Good old Rand Paul. So what they need to do now, and we've seen it, and I talked about it a few videos back with Maxine Waters, Eric Holder, even Hillary Rodham Clinton, et cetera, they're stirring up these people so that they will go out and cause dissent and destruction. That's what I think this is really about at this point. They're not going to change any minds. You've got the bell curve. You've got the small portions on either side that no matter what you do, people won't change their mind. Then you've got the people in the middle that are kind of iffy. But I think for the most part, all that's been solved. But they want to be able to have their left side get more information and not as much from us. In other words, get more information from the leftist controllers and less information from us, and dictate what they say we're saying or would have said. So that's kind of what I think is going on at this point. And like I say, we'll talk about it in the chat in a few minutes because I think that is important. I guess I should bring up what happened in Toronto with Faith Goldy, or I don't know if you folks are familiar with that. This is crazy, but I thought it was important to bring up. Faith Goldy, most of you might know, is Canadian, and she's very conservative, goes along with gun rights and all that. And she's running for mayor of Toronto. And the Rogers Media Group in Toronto banned Faith Goldy's campaign radio address and ads. So, I mean, this is getting really serious. Like I said, we've made these divisions already, but people still need to know, like in the case of Faith Goliath, she's running for office. So they didn't just shut down her social media site. They stopped her political media, her political ads on their media. And we've seen that in the United States as well in some of the races here. And that is dangerous. That is bad. Because that's in your face, okay? And it's showing what side the powers that be are really on. They're really showing their hand at that point. So this article, again, on Zero Hedge, it talks about the media truly is the enemy of the people, just as President Trump has said. And I wish, and I know he can't take it this far, but he really needs to, because of all the things he's seen the FBI and the DOJ and the CIA do to him and the American people. He needs to take the next step, and I'm hoping it's not. He doesn't want to destroy the faith in the American institutions, but the fact of the matter is they're not American institutions. They're quite the opposite. So I hope at some point in time he'll take it to the next step and say, when he points out there and he says, yeah, those people out there, they're fake news. He needs to go the next step and say they're run by the CIA, and not just rogue elements of the CIA. And again, I'm going to emphasize, I'm really getting tired of people like Sean Hannity and all that trying to cover for the FBI and say most of the rank and file are good. No, they are not. No, they are not. That's just not the case. It may have been years ago, but it's not the case now. I'm not saying there aren't good people in the IC, but they're not. The rank and file isn't that good. And I think that brings up Michael Moore, not the movie guy, but the True Pundit editor. If you all have been watching that, and he has come out. He said the same thing. The FBI is corrupt from top to bottom. Now he has an axe to grind, but he's also seen it. And I've seen it. And those who are honest with themselves know that it's out of control and it really needs to be shut down. We don't need the FBI. We don't need what it does. It can all be handed over to somebody else, and that's still a problem with corruption. But we need to punish these institutions themselves when they get out of control, and they really have done that at this point in time. Okay, so that's my take on the Purge. Very bad. It's like this thing with Faith Goldie. It just shows how far they're willing to go. I think they know that they're losing, but because of that, they become very dangerous. And I think we're going to see more calls for violence, not less. Antifa is being stirred up again. All of these different leftist groups will be. I don't know what's going to happen the lead up to the midterms, and we're getting close now. We're a little over 2 weeks away, but that's going to be telltale in the next couple of weeks. What's going to happen, and like I said, no matter whether they win or lose, they're going to go forward with their program. So I'm hoping that we all are prepped, prayed up, and staying out of the way as much as we can, but ready to defend ourselves. And I hope Trump has a battle plan for this, because he's going to need one. Okay, let's move on a little bit here to something else that I think might be of some interest to you. I don't really want to get into the Khashoggi thing a whole lot. But again, Zero Hedge had an article that I want to just read the last sentence of. Now, this was written by, again, this is in Zero Hedge. It's called, Did Saudis CIA Fear Khashoggi 9/11 Bombshell? Everybody's wondering what this killing of Khashoggi was. Some people are saying it's a false flag. Alex Jones saying, well, it's to get our attention off of other things, or they're going to set up to cause more fighting in the Middle East and all that. And it's probably very true. He doesn't really know. But this writer on Zero Hedge said, the CIA and Khashoggi 9/11 bombshell is what this was really all about. And I thought that was an interesting insight. And for some reason or other, I think it's probably right. Whoops, that's one bad thing. You got to be careful when you do that. Let me read this to you, because I don't know whether this is exactly true. I want you to go read the article, though, and consider it. The 9/11 thing with the Saudis has been, it's been shoved under the rug, denied, and I'm not saying Israel wasn't involved. They were. Our own IC was involved. Okay, I'm thoroughly convinced of that, and I think most people who look at it would know who has the power to cover something like that. First of all, to pull it off, and then to cover it up afterwards. It's the same thing like with the Kennedy assassination, right? Who has the power to keep a lid on it? So I'm not as concerned about Khashoggi and what happened to him. I mean, because of this whole crazy stuff that's going on in the Middle East, hundreds of thousands and millions of people have been killed and maimed. And we're responsible for that. And I've called that out for a very long time, and it's just not right. We're not what we pretend to be in the world. And I'm hoping that slowly, the scriptures say that you're going to have this upheaval. Everything will be in commotion. Nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, father against son, daughter against mother, etc., etc. And I understand that. And it's a really bad time. It is like a woman in childbirth. So I understand that, but it still troubles me to see that we support this violence and this war around the world in one way or another. And our IC and our people like HRC, Hillary Rodham Clinton and Obama and it's Soros, etc., are very much to blame for that. I really do hope they all get thrown in prison one of these days, thrown in the pit of hell. But let me read this at the end of the article because I thought this was telling, okay? Again, this is a Zero Hedge article, and it says, quote, Jamal Khashoggi may have known too many dark secrets about U.S. and Saudi intel collusion. I don't know why anybody would be surprised about that. Secrets about U.S. and Saudi collusion, primarily related to the 9/11 terror incidents. And with his increasing volubility as a critical journalist in a prominent American news outlet, it may have been time to silence him. And the real kicker sentence. The Saudis as hitmen, the American CIA as facilitators. And it's a win-win situation for them. They were hoping maybe that they could destabilize the Middle East again. Not that it already isn't, but further destabilize it, let's put it that way. And also possibly shut up somebody that could probably rat them out. Okay, so that's very possible. Very possible. Okay. I saw a YouTube presentation. It was kind of by accident. It just came up on my feed. I was surprised to see it. And I don't want to say any names. I don't want to give the YouTube site that said it. I don't want to talk about the guy that said it because this could come back to haunt him. But I am going to talk in some general terms. Okay? And I think you'll be able to read the lines. And I know Wikipedia isn't the best place to get information. I know that, but it's kind of a good place to go and get a general concept, and then go to the resources or look it up separately. I don't think you'll find a big problem on this subject though. So go look up Kuru disease, Kuru disease. Go look that up. It talks about the symptoms of the disease and where it comes from. Basically, it comes sort of like mad cow disease, from cows eating cows. Kuru disease apparently comes from certain aspects of human cannibalism. And it's interesting when you read this article and what the symptoms are, what political public personalities exhibit those symptoms and have for some time. So I know I'm being kind of vague. Most of you will read between the lines and know what I'm talking about. But it talks about, and it's very similar to Parkinson's, but it's not that. It's because you're reading a disease that's caused by this particular activity. And I think you need to go look at that and then compare it to some public figures that you know a lot about. It's very possible that this Kuru disease is at the heart of some of the symptoms we see in some of these public figures. The troubling part is you remember a couple of years ago, maybe it was not quite that long, maybe it was longer ago than that, we found out that Pepsi was putting in aborted fetal tissue to enhance flavor in their products. Now, supposedly they stopped that, but I don't know. My concern is I looked some of this up, and I'm not going to mention any other company names here, but apparently these flavor enhancers that have their basis in human tissue are extant throughout our food supply, particularly the processed food supply, of course. And if that's the case, it's very possible that some of the madness we're seeing isn't just, because people are just nasty or because of, other outside influences. It might really be that, they are being fed Soylent Green, making them nuts. Certainly the cabal would use any tools at their disposal to cause dissension and strife and difficulty. So at any rate, but we may have seen on a number of occasions the actual disease being played out its symptoms in one of our public figures. So considering what we know about these public figures or think we know, that could be very enlightening. So go look it up. One more time, Kuru disease, Kuru. I think you'll be interested in what you see there. Okay, and now moving on to Hillary Rodham Clinton. Like I said, read between the lines here. Hillary Rodham Clinton's clearance was revoked. Whoa, wow, finally. Wow, we're starting to move down this track. Now, I was listening to the American intelligence media yesterday, and I know some of you like them, some of you don't. I've got to tell you that I have a lot of appreciation for Betsy and Douglas. I'm not saying they're always right, but I think that if what they bring up, I do think that what they bring up is thought-provoking and important. And whether they really have some inside tracks or not, I don't know. But a lot of the things that they talk about seem to mesh with what's happening. And they said that it looks like Hillary realizes that she is in hot water. Once they took her security clearance, obviously, she loses some information. Now she'll be able to get it from criminals like Obama and people like that. But it's kind of a first step that maybe something is coming down the pike here to change. Maybe something is going to happen. Monograph says there won't be any arrests. I said, where are the arrests and all this? And it doesn't need to be a mass arrest, but if we could get the major players, I think that would be a really good thing. So AIM is saying that there is evidence that she's preparing her getaway to Shanghai, China. Isn't that interesting? And of course, Hillary Rodham Clinton and Obama are very upset about the change in policy towards Iran because that was probably a getaway too. I don't consider even the religious clerics in control of Iran to be as bad as the Wahhabists in Saudi Arabia, but at any rate, Iran was being manipulated, I think, by HRC, much like and Obama and others, just like North Korea was. So, at any rate, it looks like Hillary might be preparing her escape to Shanghai, China. Why would she go there? Well, obviously she's been working. She's talked about how great China is for a long time and that they're really smart. If you remember any of those interviews about how they're taking the money that they stole from us, that Hillary Rodham Clinton and Bill Clinton and all these other politicians helped them to steal from us, and that they're doing great things with it. Yeah, if you got free money, you'd probably be able to do some great things too. But at any rate, the other thing about China is there's no extradition. That only leaves a couple of other options, doesn't it? So I wanted to bring that up. And I got to give Sessions a pat on the back. I'm very much opposed to Jeff Sessions being where he is. His lack of activity, his lack of courage, and go-get-emness, for lack of any better term. But it's related to immigration, but I really like what he's doing. There are some states, some cities, etc., that have tried to sue the Trump administration for a question on the 2024 census, somewhere in there. Maybe sooner or later, I'm not really sure. But anyway, it's a question that they've put on the census and has to do with, their citizenship. Because, of course, the Democrats don't want that question on there because they want these things so that they can get their votes. Again, it goes back to that. Well, Sessions has said that this is a dangerous precedent, that these federal courts have ruled in favor of forcing the Trump administration to remove that question on the census. Now, I don't like the census anyway. The census is a necessary evil because of the voting districts and things like that, one of the things. And it has some other, of course, applications, giving money to the states and things like that, to different areas. But the point is, the federal judges, the federal judges have ruled against Trump. In other words, they're trying to usurp, like they did with the immigration policy generally, trying to usurp executive power. And to keep the branches of government separate, we can't allow that. And Sessions has rightly said that this is a very dangerous move and we can't allow it to stand. So it's going to the Supreme Court. Should never have gotten that far, but it shows you why these federal judges that are on the left need to be replaced. They don't follow the Constitution. They make it up as they go. They do. They make the law up as they go. They think their power is sacrosanct and that nobody can call them to task. Well, that needs to happen. They need to be taken down, and if it takes the Supreme Court to do that, I guess that's fine. But hopefully, more of these lifetime appointments will be out the door here pretty soon. I hope they start impeaching some of these people. It really needs to happen. Gloria Navarro, for instance, in Nevada, might be a good place to start. Right, the one that was ruling on the Bundy case, she did finally do the right thing by saying that the DOJ and the FBI had hid exculpatory evidence in the Bundy case and dismissed it. But she's done some other things. She still slapped some things on some people that she shouldn't have, and I think she needs to be impeached. Okay, and then of course we'll end this morning. Before we go to chat, my goodness, it's really funny how fast this time goes. We're going to talk about Elizabeth Warren for just a couple of minutes because I think that this is hilarious. This is absolutely hilarious. So I guess President Trump said that he'd pay $1 million to Elizabeth Warren's favorite charity if she has any Native American blood in her. And so she goes and she has a DNA test. And as you know, anybody who was watching my live stream the other day, people were asking me if I have 1,024th Native American in me. I mean, and then she's trying to say that proves that she's right and, President Trump pay up. And you see all these leftists who hate Trump saying he needs to pay up. But they don't understand DNA testing. And having that blood in you, of course, doesn't mean that it came directly from a Native American line. For instance, when the Spaniards came to the New World, as they like to call it, they intermarried with the locals, and that's where we get the Mexican type of features from and all of that. Some of those have, of course, they all have Native American blood in them to some extent. So it doesn't mean that she was ever part of a Native American tribe. Now, I don't recall exactly, but it seems to me that most of the Native Americans, and it might even be with the Bureau of Indian Affairs if that still exists, I don't know. But it seems to me that in order to qualify for those Native American situations, and I didn't look this up. Maybe somebody can do this before we go to chat, if you'd like. It seems to me that the blood, the connection has to be at least 1/64th, if I remember correctly. Now that may might not be correct. It may be more stringent than that. It may be more lax than that. I'm not sure. But it seems to me that 1/64th is the lowest you can go. 1 out of 1,024. I mean, I said the other day that my mom thought we had Cherokee. Everybody wants to say they have Cherokee in them, right? I've never found that, but I wouldn't doubt that somewhere down the line, there's some little thing there, that slipped in. I don't know that, but it could, right? I mean, the point is that that's almost saying that you have none at all, is what I'm saying. It's just totally ridiculous. And for her to say that she is the first woman of color at whatever university she went to or whatever that was, she's really pushing the limits there, and she ought to be called out on it, and I think she is. But don't forget, the leftists are going to, like everything else, they're going to latch on to this, and they're going to make a big deal about it, just like they already have. And I suspect we're going to see some fights on that during the lead up to the midterms and afterwards. And also don't forget, as I've said, that no matter which way these elections go, we can have a red wave, we can have a blue wave. I really don't know. Some of the experts that I trust say it is going to be a red wave, but you just never know. Some people are saying, well, Hurricane Michael hitting the Panhandle of Florida, which is a big red area, was a weather weapon. Well, I don't know that for a fact, but I know those types of things can happen. So who knows? Would they get that desperate? Yeah. Will they fan the flames of violence in the hearts of the leftists to cause violence, to try to change things? Yeah, I think they would. I don't think there's any indication that they wouldn't do that. So at any rate, I think that's where we're headed, and we need to, as always, be prepared. Okay? Well, let's go to chat. I know that's kind of a fast program. By the way, Thursday, I am going to have a special guest on, and we're going to talk about, believe it or not, pedophilia within polygamist communities. Now, as I said a few programs back, the polygamous community in general, they're very much like other people. I mean, you see them on the street, and they're just not going to be. I mean, sometimes they dress differently, but sometimes they don't. And what I want to point out is that this pedophilia thing goes across the entire spectrum in every socioeconomic class, political class. I think most of us realize that. So let's be careful that we don't denigrate and demonize an entire group of people for the actions of some. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about it. With that caveat, I will say that what our guest has uncovered, her name is Angela Kelly. She's been involved in this for some time as far as investigating it, and she's going to talk about that with us on Thursday. And her organization is called Sound Choices Coalition. And we're going to talk to her about what she has found out. What she told me last night, it even shocked me. And that's pretty hard to do, So we're going to go there on Thursday. I hope you'll join us. The show will start at 8 a.m. She will be online at about 8:15. I think you'll want to hear what she has to say. It is a charitable organization in that I think they're 501c3. She'll explain all that. They do operate on donations, as far as I understand. But anyway, she'll give us the rundown. So again, Angela Kelly, the director of Sound Choices Coalition, will be with us on Thursday. Okay? And we need to look at these things across the board because they are bad. They really are bad, no matter how they're justified. Rose of Sharon Homestead. Roy, you need to talk about pedophilia child abuse in the Amish community. Well, like I said, I just said it, Rose. You probably heard me and probably typed this before that. Yes, as I've said, this isn't a problem just in the political circles in D.C. the corporate circles, or Jerry Epstein's island, or the Catholic Church. No. I realize that this is a problem across the board, and it's been cultivated by the evil people in the world for a long time, and it crosses all those boundaries, and I know that, and that's why I think people are probably a little surprised that I would bring this up, but there was evidence of that, none that I saw directly, but, well, that's not entirely true, and we'll talk about that on Thursday, but it's certainly nothing that I condoned. And the only person that I knew personally that did do that was already in trouble with the law, or I probably would have turned him in myself if it had happened. I mean, anyway, we'll talk about all that on Thursday. But yeah, the Amish people, great people. I mean, let's not attack the. It's just like the Catholic Church. You can't attack all the Catholics because of what these criminals, these corrupt demons, these pedophiles, human traffickers, thieves, etc., do who are in power. Remember, the sociopaths and the psychopaths, which includes these pedophiles, they gravitate towards positions of power so that they can do what they do, and then they support each other. That's why power is so dangerous, and our founding fathers even understood that, and that's why the Constitution, despite its imperfections, is so important to chain down the criminals who would get in government and want to rule over us. And the American people, because they all want to put their hand in the cookie jar and get something for free, they don't understand that it's going to come back and bite them in the rear end. Maybe even cause them to lose their lives. So that's why we do what we do. We're trying to wake people up. But yeah, it goes across all socioeconomic, cultural lines. Look at Islam. I probably get banned for this, right? Yay! I get to go on vacation. Islam permits those things before the puberty of boys and girls. Do you understand that? An entire society, an entire religious movement under Sharia law, actually it's right in the Quran and in the Hadith and other things, they can do that. And there's no penalty for it. As a matter of fact, it's almost encouraged. Part of the thing in Afghanistan was our soldiers who saw these things happening and wanted to intervene were ordered not to. Can you imagine? What are we doing? What is our military really doing around the world? Not what it claims to be. That I won't say I'm attacking the individual members of the military, okay? Because that process of getting those people is different than the IC uses, okay? With the exception of when you get into the upper ranks, E8 and above, and 04 and above, primarily 06 and above. Okay. Yeah, 80-year-old men marry 13-year-old children. Yeah, that happens, Joe, and it also happens in other places in the world. That's why I say, we don't want to demonize an entire society because of what a few of them do. You can go anywhere and find that. I read a story about that in Afghanistan. So yeah, it does. It happens everywhere. Black hole, son, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to give any credence to that at all. I'm not going to go there. I'm done with that, and I've told everybody I am, and there are lots of reasons for it. Good. Vince Palermo. Roy, did WikiLeaks get his internet back? Julian Assange. I don't think so yet. Apparently, the Ecuadorian embassy the Ecuadorian government is, I guess, trying to stand their ground there. I hope one of these days Trump gets involved and settles this thing, and he can. He could settle it in a heartbeat. First of all, by telling Jeff Sessions and Mike Pompeo to leave him alone, because he's going to pardon him anyway. I don't see how they can charge him with anything. He's a journalist. He's never, this whole thing with Julian Assange is a national disgrace on the part of the British, on the part of the Americans, and Ecuador was doing okay up to a point, but they're getting pressured. Michael Powell. I'm gonna read yours. The thing with negotiating with Islam is this: when you ask whether it is either or this, that, or the other thing, the answer is yes, all of the above. Oh yeah. I know. That's the tactic. That's how they get power. Yes, absolutely. We could go into some things there, but we won't. Yeah, that's probably Julie Smith. I'd probably get into that, but that's a lot of people. That probably confuse some people. But yeah, you might be addressing somebody else. She's talking about CEO Anne E. Wojcicki. I've never been able to say her name right, but she apparently co-founded Google, or her husband co-founded Google, and the parent company Alphabet, and he was the brother-in-law of Susan Wojcicki, whatever. The CEO of YouTube. Yikes. Yeah, this entire thing is really bad, and it goes back to this thing where the IC, really the government, has taken control in a roundabout way of the social media thing so that they can use so-called private corporations, which are just a front, so that they don't have to be limited to the First Amendment requirements under the Constitution if supposedly a corporation is involved. But that needs to be fixed with antitrust legislation or enforcement. Legislation's already there. Antitrust enforcement and Trump literally going to war with these people and knowing who the enemy is. But like I said with the title of this whole video, I really think that they've pushed it too far and that the dividing lines are already there. So we'll see. The midterms are going to tell us a lot. And I'm not sure which way that's going to go yet, but the midterms are going to tell us an awful lot. Wow, that's interesting. Jack Kennedy. Roy, what would a righteous You're doing the three like I do. American society look like? Well, that would take too long to explain. I'll just say it's not the way it looks right now. How does that sound? It's not what we are right now. With what we do here at home, what we do around the world, it's certainly not what we see right now. That's for sure. G-Man Neode. Kuru symptoms are shown by... Yeah. Okay. Again, read between the lines. I'm not going to say it directly here. I'm just not going to do it. But yes, absolutely 100% they do. Okay. Yeah, right. Andrew Briseno. The government, through DARPA, founded Google, YouTube, etc. The Zuckerbergs, Gates, et al. Are just IC installed puppets. Yes, that's true, with the financial benefits. Government money and government control is involved, and they're trying to skate the constitutional requirements by making their front companies look like private corporations. And not that they aren't private corporations, but they're definitely front companies. I was recruited by a CIA front company, or they tried to recruit me, let's put it that way, twice, actually. And I almost bid on it the second time. Actually, they didn't like some of my answers, so they booted me the second time. But yeah, just because they're front companies doesn't mean that they're not IC controlled, and they definitely are. And we know, of course, that Hillary Rodham Clinton has access to the digital coding keys. Okay, she got those through the patent office deal when she had her law firm down there in Little Rock, Arkansas, and has been in control of them ever since. Literally the FBI keys. She has literal control of those. Okay, why do I self-censor? Because it's my show, and I decide what I do and what I don't. Good enough answer, I think. Yeah, I agree. One IE monster. If they use public utilities such as phone lines, routers, cell towers, etc., they're using public utilities. I agree. So there isn't any reason not to go after them. Jeff Sessions just needs to get off his ass. That's all there is to that. Yeah, Hillary owns the FBI, literally. Yeah, she controls the information going in and out. I wouldn't be surprised if she wasn't intimately involved, or her cronies, in what happened to the Bundys in Nevada. I wouldn't be a bit, certainly what happened to the Hammonds in Oregon, that Trump pardoned there. Not everybody that was involved in helping them stand up. Who should have gone to jail were the FBI informants that were sent in there against those people. Those are the people that should have gone to jail. And the FBI agents that lied, and the DOJ agents that lied, the BLM agents that lied and caused fires and destroyed property. Yeah, and the whole nonsense about the desert tortoise in Nevada, and all that's about just giving excuses to steal lands. The same thing that the Soviets did. They just try to pretend like it's something else here. Okay. Private Attorney General. How our hospitals and medical system are infested with Hillary Clinton fifth column agents. I think you're making a positive statement there that they are infiltrated with those agents. Yeah, they probably are. I mean, it's their profession. Their paycheck depends on them following the orders, right? They stand up and they say otherwise, and they get attacked, lose their job, get suspended, whatever. Okay, FBI equals FIB, yeah. A fib, it's worse than that. Ruth Kessler, yes, I know. American Indian heritage is genetically complicated. They require relation to documented ancestors, tribal members, because DNA doesn't trace tribal law. Exactly, Ruth. Thank you for bringing that up. And that's why this whole thing with Warren is disgusting and embarrassing. And I could say a lot more, but she needs to be censored for what she's done and thrown out of the Senate as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, Harry Reid is still behind what is happening in Nevada. He is pure evil. Yeah, Sandra Odell, I agree. And Hillary Clinton is too, and Obama and Eric Holder and all that. Yeah, they're still there. Harry Reid needs to go to prison. He needs to be investigated and go to prison. Okay. Yeah, Francesca. Well, that's interesting, Francesca. I can prove my Italian ancestors and can be an Italian citizen. Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of us could do the same thing. Okay, and Elizabeth Warren didn't prove anything other than her stupidity and her true ignorance and her entitlement. That's what she proved. She's not a grateful person. She's one of those entitlement demanders. Yeah, Elizabeth Warren is a Hillary girlfriend. Yeah. Probably more so than we'd want to admit. Craig Clower, Harry Reid is not evil. Sorry, yes he is. Absolutely 100%. He called farmers and ranchers who stood up against the BLM in his attempt to usurp land unlawfully under color of law. The people have owned and controlled for hundreds of years. He tried to call those good people domestic terrorists. I'll bet you he never, ever calls an Antifa member a domestic terrorist. So don't tell me he isn't evil. And if you don't like what I have to say, bye. He is evil. 100%. He is LDS. Do you know that? You're probably LDS too. Oh, I'll come on to Harry Reid and I'll lay him low. No, Harry Reid is evil to the core. Evil to the core. Okay. I'm going to check a couple things here because I did want to bring up something else now that I think about it. I mean, we've got a few minutes yet. I'm going to try to hold this to an hour today, and I think I can do that. I've got lots of stuff happening, and so anyway, I brought this up the other day. Let's just say, make sure I'm not missing something that I need. Okay, yeah. What's LDS? That's a good question. Neon Butterfly Meadow. This is interesting. What's LDS? Latter-day Saints. The Mormons. They used when they first got started, they were called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Actually, they had some other names before that, but that's kind of what they settled on. And then the short version was Mormons or the Saints or that kind of thing. Well, interestingly enough, the church is upset over the fact that they're known by acronyms. So this last conference that they had, they're just all upset about how they're known, and so that they want to be called the Church of Jesus Christ, I guess now. Plain and simple. They don't want to ever be referred to as Mormons again, and it won't be too long before they jettison, if they haven't already, jettison Joseph Smith and Jesus Christ himself. So, Nothing surprises me with those people, and all those Mormons who are listening to me, if you are there, I'm sorry I have such disrespect for the leaders of the church, but they own it. Okay? They own it. Somebody said something I have no idea about. Let me read this because I think this is important. I saw this the other day and I alluded to it, but I didn't put it up. It's a meme that showed up on my Twitter feed. And what it says, and I'm just going to read through this real quick. 125 years ago, you didn't have to ask permission from the government to, and then there are a bunch of bullets. First bullet, collect rainwater. Second bullet, go fishing. Third, own property. Fourth, start a business. Next one, renovate your home. Next one, build a home. Next one, use a transportation vehicle. Next one, the big one that I've always, this has been my battle cry for many, many years. Get married. Government has no business in that at all. None. Hunt. Own a weapon. Cut hair. Sell a product. Protest. Grow food on your property. Set up a lemonade stand. Sell food. You can do virtually nothing without being extorted by government and obtaining their permission first. If you still think you're free, you're deluding yourself. You live in a tax farm as free-range humans. Absolutely 100% correct. Let me put this up there, and you guys can look for it. I'm just going to make sure that I'm able to see this here. Let's come up here and take a look. All right, can you see that? I guess I ought to look at it in real time instead of this, okay? Go look for that meme. Post it on your accounts, send it to your kids. It's really true. And they've always got an excuse as to why they have to put us under that control. They always have an excuse. And it's never a good one. Not when you really think about it. Government didn't get involved. Martin Luther was the first one. Here we go, right? You got me going. The Catholic Church was abusing the marriage vows to control people. Don't forget that they started the Inquisition and went after so-called witches, and killed 9 million innocent women, calling them witches. Because they simply, sort of like the Salem witch trial situation, they needed an enemy. Women have some healing gifts, look at things a little different than men do, and also, owned property. So the best way to get what they have and to get rid of the little problem that they cause, rather than dealing with their feminine wiles, which I find charming by and large, they kill them. 9 million during the Inquisition. 9 million women. Man. It's crazy. I got so upset about that, I forgot what I was going to talk about. Is Uni in here? I don't know. Uni's great. I love his stuff. He gets into detail. Well, he's got plenty of time. He does those hours-long, live streams. But he does have he and his wife, Uni Rach, they do consolidate those, and they put them up later with just the important information. So if Uni's here, hello, Uni. I'll say hi to you. Okay, well, we've got about a minute and a half left. Let's see if there's anything in here that we want to talk about. Interesting comment, Michael Powell. Wasn't the Inquisition a response to the Islamic invasion of the West at the time? No. You could probably say it was a part of it, but the real response to the Islamic invasion were the Crusades. Okay, the history tries to tell us that the Western Christian nations that were defending against the Islamic invasion actually started the Crusades without provocation. That's not true. Okay, but the Inquisition wasn't really to respond to Islam. There may have been people that converted to Islam. Maybe they used that as a tool to throw some of them out. But in my estimation, from what I understand about history, it wasn't a major player in the Inquisition. Oh, thank you. Yeah, no marriage license. That's where we were going. Rose of Sharon Homestead. We just married our oldest daughter. No marriage license. Come out from the state. God's marriage covenant has nothing to do with the state. Amen, amen, amen. That's been my fight, my personal fight for many, many years. And that's where I was going. Thank you for reminding me, ma'am. I appreciate that. Yes, as I showed here, Martin Luther was upset that the church was misusing the marriage covenant for control, and he thought that the state should take control of it because of the corruption in the church. Little did he know, right, that the state is just as or more so corrupt and has really destroyed man's most important institution under the claims that it's trying to save it, to support it. You wouldn't believe the stuff that happened in my court case and the things that the state said to justify their position. I'll just tell you that if you allow the state to interfere with your relationship with your spouse, with your loved one, you're a fool. And I'm just going to say, you can choose to go there, and they can force it on you later. Utah went to the point where they could declare you married even if you weren't, even if you didn't want to be married. If they wanted something from you, if they thought that they could enforce a law on you that they made us totally ridiculous, they would just declare you married if you lived with somebody, or even if you just had a relationship with somebody, they'd declare you married and then act state law upon you based upon that. It's evil. It's absolutely evil. Government has no business in the marriage covenant whatsoever, or any of those other things I listed, or that good person listed on that meme. And that's the point that I've been fighting against. I will never get a state marriage license. Any of those ladies out there, and you know who you are, who I've talked to, I've told you, I will not do that. I will not denigrate God's law by that, even with all of the little carrots that they put out there for you. But it's not just that it's God's law, it's an infringement upon our rights as men and women to choose our own associations, which is guaranteed under the 10th Amendment. And we've sold all of these rights away thinking that it's worth the cookies that they give us, little crumbs off their tables. It's just... We've got to stop this. Government shouldn't be allowed to get this deeply involved in our personal affairs. It's just ridiculous. Okay. A license is a tax. Permission to do something that is illegal, but most likely still lawful. Right, Alfonso. So how is it that a relationship between a man and a woman is considered illegal and you need a license for it? Historically, what happened there is there were laws against miscegenation, crossing racial lines. And so they said that you had to have a license for that. Well, then it became, wow, look at this control thing that we've got here. We've got to expand this, that everybody needs a license. You know what I had to say to that? Yeah, it's that middle finger, the really popular, gesture. That's what I say to it. Marriage, I've always said that marriage is too sacred to allow a corrupt organization like any government in the middle of it. Now, I know that there are, legal arguments and things that come up in the course of relationships. Those things can be handled outside of any requirement for a marriage license, absolutely. How is it that having an affair, having a relationship between a man and a woman is illegal unless it's licensed? That is absurd, and it comes from some understandings or from misunderstandings of Judeo-Christian tradition that really the Christians caused themselves, amongst some other things. And I'm still going to get into that, bad women, good women thing here as soon as one of our guests heals up, and we're hoping that she gets better. Okay, I think we're done. I want to thank everybody for coming today. Again, let me remind you that on Thursday, we are going to have Angela Kelly, who is the director for Sound Choices Coalition. We're going to talk about pedophilia amongst and in the polygamous groups. And after what she told me last night, I'm thoroughly disgusted. Again, it's not rampant. It's not throughout the entire culture, but as usual, the usual suspects show their ugly heads, and they're doing it again. It's just sad. But don't forget, we got to fight this pedophilia thing across the board, no matter where it comes or rears its ugly head. We need to say something about it, okay? No matter what. Don't make false accusations, because then that just detracts from the real ones that have happened. You don't want to follow people for sensational reasons, because that degrades the real victims and it protects the real guilty people when we do that. So let's stay in the realm of evidence, probable cause, reasonable suspicion to start the process, but let's not go overboard and start making false accusations. That's very dangerous to do. You're entering satanic territory when you do that. Okay? Alrighty. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Keep your situational awareness on high as we enter into this time period now where really the Constitutional Republic of the United States, which I know has been shattered, has been tattered, sliced up, diced up, and it may be hanging not by a thread but by a fiber of a thread. I know that's true, but it's like the note on the bridge I saw. If there's nowhere else to go, stay. Let's see if we can get this thing repaired. We're in a dangerous time now, and leading up to and after the midterms and what the left will do. So, like I say, keep your situational awareness on high. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. If you want to help your local sheriff, if he or she is a good guy, that's one thing. But be careful there as well. A lot of wolves in sheep's clothing, as we all know. God bless you. God bless the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America and the Second American Revolution. And as always, may God bless Donald Trump and all of his righteous endeavors. And may the Spirit of the Lord send him the spirit of discernment, that it will descend upon him as the dews from heaven, that he will know the right from the wrong and have the courage to do the right thing. See you Thursday, everybody. Take care.